Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's awesome to see such a fabulous turnout for the program that we're bringing to the high school. For those of you who are middle school parents, I'm Sandy Antreri. I'm the high school principal. Matt Mello, social studies teacher and project coordinator for our IB program, and we are very excited to be here and present this tonight. Dr. Luft is also joining us. And so with that, we're going to start with the International Baccalaureate presentation. Now, when this high school was first built about 2000, 2001, it was actually intended on being an IB school. That's what they had in all the school improvement meetings and all the planning. They had intended on bringing IB to the school, but it didn't happen. And in fact, Mr. Mello can talk about when he came, there were many planning meetings and things to get the IB program started.
Yeah, so I was hired in the 2001 school year, which was the second year that we were open. And one of the really exciting things that they were talking about at that time, the principal was Ray Cooper, and he was talking with the faculty and staff about the IB program. So we started to get a little bit excited about, the possibilities here at Putnam Valley. And then, unfortunately, through a series of this administrator in, this one out, kind of the idea of bringing IB in kind of got lost. And then when Sandy was hired, Sandy came from a school that was bringing IB into their school. So as a faculty here, we started to get excited again about like, hey, maybe we're at that point where we're ready to revisit this whole IB program and look at, what it can do for us here in Putnam Valley.
And what happened is the faculty went out on a series of visits. I think we had almost 30 faculty go on school visits to Harrison High School, which is an IB school. They went to Red Hook High School up in northern Dutchess County. They went south to Dobbs Ferry. Some teachers actually went to Long Island to investigate. And so they heard about all the programs in those different schools, and they came back very excited and shared with each other. And we talked as a faculty and decided to move forward with this program. We are a candidate school, and we're moving towards authorization. And before we do that, we wanted to present it to all the parents in grades 6 through 10.
Yeah, one of the things that, as we went through this process, Sandy and I have been working with the faculty, a very, good, solid, collaborative effort over the last 2 years to be able to bring in the IB program. So, there's a lot of different facets and things to it that are different than what we've seen before with education here at the high school. So we thought it was really important for the parents and you out there in TV land, to understand, what's going on, and if you have questions, to bring those up so we can make sure moving into next year, we're all set, ready to go.
So a little bit, we already have a great high school. We have strong interscholastic programs. We have a strong band and theater program, supportive community. Our faculty is very progressive and enthusiastic. Our staff is on board. We have a lot of strong college preparatory classes. We have science research, our Journeys program. We have our STEM program, which is growing. So we do a lot of great things already here in Putnam Valley. We have a great school community. But we want to make it better. We have a responsibility to give our kids the best possible education that they can get. Why shouldn't Putnam Valley kids get the best that they can possibly get is what I think about. And also, when you have to think about also, besides college preparation, we want our kids to be able to, 1, get to college, but 2, be able to stay in college and graduate in 4 years. Unfortunately, statistics show that many kids don't make it through 4 years of college, and sometimes it takes kids as long as 6 years to get through college. The numbers are growing in that area. And what IB does, IB prepares students so that when they get to college, they stay in college and they get done in 4 years because they're organized, they're well prepared, and they are ready for the rigor of a college program. And then in addition to that, when we think about what differentiates a Putnam Valley kid from somebody who goes to Brewster, from somebody who goes to Mayapack, from somebody who goes to Somers, from somebody who goes to Wappingers Falls, up north a little bit? every school has a similar program. They all have science research. They all have some kind of senior experience where they go out on an internship. They all offer AP classes. So what would make a Putnam Valley student on a college application look different? Everybody's doing volunteer service. Everybody has their passions. So what's nice is on college applications now, for the Common App, which everybody uses for a lot of college applications, there's actually a little box that asks you, are you a diploma candidate? Because they know IB diploma candidates have taken the most rigorous, extensive program, and they like to know that about applicants coming in. And when they're looking at college applications, they go, oh, Putnam Valley kid, they have IB, they've been through IB. So that, that's not the main reason why we're bringing it here. It's to help prepare your child so that they can make it through 4 years of college and do well and be successful and follow their passions. But it does help to differentiate our students from other area schools. We'd be the first school in Putnam County to have an IB program.
All right, so when you look at this, the IB program really focuses on, developing a whole bunch of different facets of the student, and not just focusing on, say, one particular area of study. So, this well-rounded student, internationally mindedness, trying to incorporate all these things into who they are when they graduate, is going to give them that leg up. Moving on to whatever they do next in life. And again, that kind of like what I said before, the IB program focuses on developing the whole child, not just like, their scientific ability or their math ability, things like that. All right, so when we look at the IB program, there are different levels, and one of the things that you'll realize about the IB program, there are acronyms all over the place. So it's one of the things that we had to educate ourselves, the faculty, because that's kind of how it operates. So some of the things that you might see, like they have a PYP program, a middle years program. We're focusing on the diploma program, and then there's also this careers program that they offer as well. And the careers program has a different focus than, say, the diploma program. But all of these programs are offered by IB to schools around the country and the world. We're going to focus right now on the diploma program.
And what's important to know, it's 11th and 12th grade. So even if students wanted to take the IB program before 11th grade, they can't. They have to be 16 years of age. So what's most important for us to know and for you to know, it's important that really you start planning your child's high school career and their pathway early on so that they can get the courses they want to get in 11th and 12th grade. So a little program history. So IB started in 1968 in Europe, and it came out of the United Nations, and it came because basically ambassadors and diplomats and their children who travel a lot around the world wanted a common curriculum to follow wherever the diplomat happened to be. And that's kind of one of the ways that IB developed. And 1968 it formed, and it grew a little bit in the late 1990s. And then you could see by 2017, there's probably now even closer to 4,800 IB World Schools. It's grown 45% in the last 5 years. So it's becoming tremendously popular. The Common Core, which you've heard a lot about, actually, when they first designed their written curriculum, looked to the IB curriculum as a model. So also, we're going to talk about AP later, but AP has formulated and started changing its tests to look more like IB. So it really has been a trendsetter as far as curriculum.
All right, so at the heart of this IB program is this learner profile. And if you can look up there and see those characteristics, I think we could all come to this understanding, agreement that if you had a child going out into the world after they graduate, and it doesn't matter what they're doing, going on to college or going into the workforce, you would want them to have these characteristics, right? So when we think about the IB program, one of the things that really drew us here at Putnam Valley to the IB program was the fact that this is the basis for this program, right? We want our children, no matter what they do, to be able to have those characteristics, demonstrate those, and we feel like that's going to give our children the most success or the most opportunities for success as they move forward.
And what's important is even in 9th and 10th grade, they may not be taking an IB course, but these IB learner profile traits will be embedded in all courses and will become a part of the culture of the school and things that we will be looking for on a daily basis in courses and in our culture. And even the reflective part is very, very important because IB makes teachers reflect a lot on their practice, on the exams they're given, and gives them a lot of feedback on how to improve their practice.
Yeah, and the risk taker thing, we're not talking about like, can I jump from 15 feet up or something like that, right? We're talking about taking that risk in an educational capacity. Don't be afraid, right, to go out there and investigate different things or put yourself out there, put your ideas out there, right, because those are going to help us all grow.
So again, the diploma program, it's a 2-year course of study. So you can take the whole diploma program, which we'll talk about, which is 3 higher levels and 3 standard levels, or you can just take individual IB classes and get an IB certificate. So what's nice about the program, there's lots of choice. You can get the whole diploma, or you can do individual courses for a certificate.
So the IB program really does appeal to all of the students at the high school. No matter what their academic standing is, there is something that they can do and take away from an IB course. So it'll allow all students to attempt IB courses.
So again, IB certificate, 1 or more IB courses, you get a certificate. And then we have also within IB, so there's not just one level. Again, IB focuses, they want a well-rounded student. They don't want somebody who is, maybe they're a humanities student and they're forcing themselves to take an AP in math or science and they're struggling and they're miserable. That's not something that IB promotes. They want you to focus on your strengths, but also be exposed to other areas. So if you're a really strong English and social studies student, then you take your higher levels in English and social studies, and you might take your standard levels in math and science so that you're balanced and you have exposure, but you're capable of doing that. And if you're a math and science person, then they encourage you to take your higher levels in those areas. Or if you're a music person, take your higher level in music or in art. So there's something for every child so that you can attempt that diploma.
Yeah, and one of the handouts that you have on the pathways to an IB diploma, on the back of it, you'll see that there are 3 examples of different pathways that a student could take based on what their strengths would be. Hopefully that makes some sense at this point. So there's the one thing, anybody can attempt to take an IB course, a higher level or standard level course, and they'll receive that IB certificate. And then the other part of this is somebody who wants to receive an IB diploma. And so a student that wants to take or receive the IB diploma will have to take 6 courses or 6 subject areas, 3 higher level and 3 standard level. IB will not let you take more than 4 higher levels. So if you have one of those students that is, really, really driven, they can't take more than 4 higher level because the IB knows that it's a very rigorous program and that they don't want anybody to overtax themselves, with this. So they understand that taking more than 4, they're recommending 3, but taking more than 4 is not something that they will even allow.
So going to the core, how many of you have any back issues? And they always say you have to strengthen your core. And I talk about the core in IB. That's the real backbone of the program and what makes really the diploma program stand out. So again, we'll talk about AP later, but AP is a bunch of individual courses that have no connection to each other. In the IB program, everything is connected, which we'll talk more. All the courses have a connection, and then they're all connected through the core. Theory of knowledge, which is a special course we'll show you about how students learn how to think and what they know. The extended essay, which is almost like a little mini dissertation, a 4,000-word paper. and then creativity, action, and service, and we'll break each of these down for you. So first we have a little 2-minute video on TOK because it's just a good break from us talking, and we'll give you a little overview of what students learn in this course.
Hi, and welcome to 2-Minute Theory of Knowledge. In this episode, what is theory of knowledge? Theory of Knowledge, or TOK, is a compulsory course and core component of the IB Diploma program. It focuses on claims and questions about knowledge. The main knowledge question is, how do we know? When someone claims to know something, we ask how reliable that claim is. Knowledge in TOK is arranged in areas of knowledge, or AOKs. The AOKs include natural science, human science, history, the arts, and mathematics. Experts in each AOK use particular methods to generate knowledge and have particular ways of checking and sharing that knowledge. Students are also expected to understand different ways of knowing, or WOCs, including reason, language, sense perception, and emotion. These AOKs and WOCs, along with core TOK concepts like reliability and certainty, become the context for investigating questions about knowledge, like how do we know if scientific methods are reliable, or how do we judge between competing historical interpretations, or to what extent is mathematical knowledge subjective? The answer to all of these knowledge questions is, it depends, but that's never the whole answer. Students need to understand the perspectives, contexts, and other factors that a good answer depends on. The assessment in TOK is made up of essays and oral presentations. A possible 3 points towards the IB Diploma are available through a combination of TOK and the extended essay. TOK gives students the skills to understand some important things about what they learn in their other subjects and more generally in the world around them. With so many bogus claims and so much fake news to contend with, TOK might be the most important course students do. Thanks for watching this episode of 2-Minute Theory of Knowledge.
TOK is typically one of the kids' favorite classes in other schools because it teaches kids how to think. It teaches them, how does a historian look at documents? How do we know that what the historian's saying is true? How do we know that what the scientists' research saying is accurate? So they discuss all these things. They do it in a very philosophical way, and they also write a paper. And that's another part that strengthens the IB program. There's a lot of writing, a heavy, heavy emphasis on the written word, which is very good to prepare students for college. A little technical difficulty. So to go on with that, we have the extended essay. That's the second part of the core. This extended essay, your child would get a mentor for that who would help them pick an area of interest that they want to study. So if they are into science and physics, they can pick an extended essay that revolves around physics. If they're a historian, they can pick a topic that relates to history and write about that. If they're an English person, they can do an extended essay in that area. So there's a lot of personal choice within these areas that the child can choose so they can really follow their passion.
Yeah, and I don't know if you said this. They'll start in year 1, which would be 11th grade. They'll start working on the extended essay, and they'll finish it up probably January, February of year 2. So it gives them a lot of time to kind of delve into and explore a subject that they're interested in, and then be able to come up with that final kind of project paper, extended essay paper about that. CAS, creativity, action, and service. This isn't a course that they take. It's like extended essay. Extended essay is not a course, but it's something that they'll be doing throughout the 2 years that they're involved in the IB program. One of the best ways that I can explain CAS to you is if you think about Eagle Scouts. Do you know, like Eagle Scouts? And Eagle Scouts end up with like a project that they do at the end of it. So one of the things that they can do within CAS is something like an Eagle Scout project, where through the course of those 2 years they're working on this project, coming up with an idea, the action, which is putting that into play, whatever they're doing, whatever they're creating, and then the service, something that hopefully is there to help the community out. And then they'll have to reflect on that process as well. So there'll be a paper attached to CAS where they reflect on the experience that they went through. But another option that students have with CAS is if they like to volunteer to do things. So like we take the example of, say, like somebody who volunteers to coach a basketball team in town. So like one of the Parks and Recreation basketball teams. So somebody involved in CAS might plan out being a coach, come up with like the practice plans for all that, and the coaching of it, and interaction with all the children within that scope. So it's one, giving back to their community, and then also learning about what it takes to do all that. And then the final piece then is reflecting on that whole experience. We also, have seen the examples of, somebody that is musically inclined, and now they want to, provide music lessons for younger children or whatever. That also falls in that realm of CAS. So again, choice. We talk about choice. One of the things that's great about the IB program is the amount of choices that you have in like the extended essay and that CAS program.
And we've actually been working with the phys ed teachers on the CAS program because it's, excuse me. You have to, I lost my place.
So we thought that was a great place to have the physical education teachers involved in all this, and they get to see all the students in the building anyway. So a nice way to kind of marry that. Now, not to, it's not taking away from their physical education experience in the school, but it's a way to utilize those teachers who can then build in contact time, with the students so that they can, keep track of what they're doing as far as their, service and, action is considered. Oh, all right, so here, this is something we've become very familiar with. This is the IB wheel, and it kind of has those things that we've been talking about built into it. You can see at the heart of it, you have the learner profile, and those are those characteristics that I talked about before. And then around this, they have approaches to teaching and approaches to learning. And this is something that every teacher that's trained in IB, focuses on the approaches to teaching. Really, one of the buzzwords we hear a lot now is our terms is student-centered learning. And the approaches to teaching and learning really does focus on those student-centered aspects of the educational process. Outside of that, you have your theory of knowledge, extended essay, and CAS built into that diploma program. And then you have your 6 groups on the outside of that. And those are those 6 groups where they'll have to choose 3 higher level and 3 standard level courses from if they're going to go for the IB diploma. And then around the whole outside is what we have in international mindedness. The IB program, like Mrs. Inchuri said before, is it's about, bringing in this global perspective on education and the understanding that that global perspective, it's not just about how we learn and what we need to learn locally, but it's also about developing a deeper understanding of what's going on globally, and that's what we want our students to know and learn and understand as they move forward when they graduate here.
And I think that's important that even in AP classes, they look a lot at perspective. What are the authors of the document saying? And we try to understand other perspectives. And IB puts even a heavier emphasis on how do people around the globe view things differently, and then there's discussion about that. So a lot of kids giving their voice and giving their opinions and talking about what they think the perspectives are and really solving real life problems. So IB assessments. This, I think, is very, very important to note. When your child takes an AP class, they take one assessment in May, and it's a one-shot deal on one day. They come in, and you find a lot of kids, they memorize. They take the test, and they basically flush the material out. That's it. Because it's a lot, APs are a lot of multiple choice taking. In IB, there's multiple assessments. So in every IB class, there's an internal assessment, which means it's some sort of project that revolves around the curriculum that the student has picked and works on in class with the teacher. In math, it could be some sort of statistical-based project. It could be an essay in history. It's all a world topics paper in English, whatever it happens to be. And then the teacher grades that assessment, and that becomes part of their grade for the end-year assessment grade. Now, IB will ask for samples from the teacher's grading and give them feedback on it to make sure that they're grading accurately, but that is graded internally. Then there are external assessments which happen in May, and it could be for history. It's a 2-day exam, 3 papers, papers 1, 2, and 3, so that the child has more than 1 day to demonstrate what they know. And it's like that for all subject areas. It's over 2 days, multiple papers, they call them. And again, it gives the child many opportunities to demonstrate what they know, and it's not that 1 day, one-shot, test-taking anxiety type situation.
And just to add to that, the tests, or the external assessment, there is choice built into that external assessment. So when we keep talking about the IB program, one of the things that we love about the IB program is the choice that's involved there. On an AP exam, you're given an essay. There's very little choice, in what you can write about on that essay. Whereas the IB, I can just speak about, world history. I teach AP World History. There's very little choice as far as the essay goes. In IB, there are 26 different topics, and you get to choose one of those to write your essay on. So it's a lot more choice. It's not saying, we want you to know these specific pieces of information. It's saying, you tell us what you know about this topic. So we really like that.
And also, IB is graded differently. So it's graded based on the criteria. If the child hits the criteria, they get the score. Where in AP, it's a certain percentage of students will get a 5, a certain percentage will get a 4, a certain percentage will get a 3, based on what the statisticians decide will be the percentage for that year. I mean, we talk about in AP chemistry, I think the percentage of getting 5s is down to like 5% or less. So it's not necessarily, the child could be doing very well, but statistically on that year, they might end up with a 4 instead of a 5, depending on how AP, the College Board, wants things to fall. So what do our teachers say about IB? They like the fact that it includes all students. This program is not just for diploma candidates, it's for the whole school. All the children will have access to different IB courses. We've emphasized a lot tonight the student choice, the emphasis on writing, the discussion skills. I haven't talked at all about academic honesty, but we had to write an academic honesty policy that addressed how we deal with things in Putnam Valley, and it's going to be a large focus on making sure that teachers source their materials, that students source their materials correctly, that we have the right sources in the library for students to use, and it's really a very good preparation for college. Again, the focus on long-term assignments and planning, the research, problem solving, and the global awareness, which we discussed. We discussed these. We've talked a little bit tonight about the difference between AP and IB, and we want to go into this further because some people can have some fear about AP versus IB, and we will be keeping some AP classes. So for example, in 10th grade, Mr. Mello is one of the teachers who teaches a global AP class. That will remain in 10th grade. We'll also be looking at English composition in 10th grade for students. Also, some of our math and sciences in the 12th grade, AP physics, I believe AP Chem, and some other ones will be remaining. But many in the humanities will be turning over to an IB format. So again, the difference, to remind you, AP is one level. We have multiple levels in IB. AP is 1-year courses. IB, they will stretch over 2 years. And the AP is geared to a really high-achieving student who excels, whereas IB is developed with the whole child and where all students can aspire to take an IB class. AP, we're going to show you some samples, has multiple choice, and it's about reading comprehension, where you're going to see IB courses are on critical thinking and writing. And in fact, we have a substitute who is has a physics background and taught in Europe and has taught here. And he is so excited that we are doing the IB program because he finds that in physics especially, it's again focused on critical thinking and not just picking that multiple choice answer. And we talked about the assessments.
Yeah, and one thing that we looked at and what we're going to do here at Putnam Valley, in 11th grade, all our 11th grade, the English classes are all taking IB language and literature. So every student in Putnam Valley in 11th grade will take a standard level IB, and it's called English Language and Literature. And then those who want to challenge themselves can also take the HL course. So every student will be exposed to an SL course, and then those who would like to take a more challenging course, the 2-year course, could go on to take the HL, the higher level course. And they, what's that? The following year. Yes, yep, the following year.
And we just put some samples up here to kind of give you an idea of the difference between AP and IB. So this is a sample, and we just randomly picked them. History question, the ideas about government expressed in the excerpt are most consistent with which of the following? So kids read a little bit, and then they, again, choose a multiple choice answer. And it's a lot based on reading. How fast you can read, how well you can read. That's usually, what determines who gets a 5 and who gets a 2. Not necessarily the content, Again, just more samples of AP, very specific. The preaching described in the excerpt is an example of which of the following developments in the 1700s. Very specific. This is one of the short answers. Explain one difference in the way in which nomadic and sedentary societies in Afro-Eurasia before 1450 adapted to their environment. Explain one similarity between their economic practices. Explain one major pattern of cultural interaction. It's a very specific short answer question. Now, when you come to the IB history, this is only one topic. Topic 1, causes, practices, and effects of war. There are actually 6 topics, and each topic has 5 questions, and the child only has to choose one out of those for that specific paper on that specific day of the assessment. And you're going to see they're much broader. To what extent do you agree with the view that war accelerates social change? They're topics that are large, enduring issues that give the students a lot of opportunity to demonstrate what they know.
Yeah, I just think about like the AP World History exam, and when you get that essay question, if that essay question doesn't fall within like your wheelhouse, a topic that you knew a lot about, your chances of being successful on that essay diminish greatly. This is saying, right, where is your wheelhouse? What is it you feel comfortable about, with world history or U.S. history, and then, demonstrate that, you know what we're talking about, you know what you're talking about in a pretty higher level way of doing it too.
Just a sample for math. So this is an AP, AB calculus math. And you could see we're at question 92. I think I saw that the questions went up to 98 multiple choice on the math exam. And this is another one, another math multiple choice. And then this is an IB math question. So we see the difference. This is not multiple choice. The student, there's actually a part before this, but the student has to work through everything they ask here, and they can get various marks throughout depending on what part they get right or wrong. So again, it's showing their work, just like we ask students to do, and they can get partial credit. It's not just that right or wrong multiple choice answer. AP Literature, another example, again, very specific multiple choice about the excerpts. The 5th stanza makes use of all the following except. And that's also what makes AP difficult. It's not necessarily the content, it's how they word the question. So kids have to pay attention to those things like except. Where in IB, it's really the kid demonstrating, what do you know? This is an essay for the AP literature, and they have to choose from the works listed below and then answer the question above. Granted, they do have a choice in what pieces of literature, but still in and of itself is limited. When you look at IB literature, it's the same thing that I showed you for history. This is one section on poetry, but there are like 5 other sections with 3 other questions each. So the child has like 20 different questions that they can choose from, and about 4 or 5 other areas they can choose from if poetry is not their strength. I just chose that one randomly. But it says here, I like number 6, light and dark, country and city, proud and humble. These and numerous other contrasts have been used by poets to sharpen their expression of ideas and feelings. In the works of at least 2 poets you have studied, explore the ways contrasts have been used to achieve particular effects. So it's much more wide open. The child can choose any 2 pieces of poetry. And also the internal assessment for English, they actually get certain pieces of poetry that they have to critically analyze and then verbally speak that critical analysis, get videotaped, and that gets sent to IB. So there's a heavy emphasis on being a critical thinker and being able to articulate that and verbalize it for assessors.
So on this side, one of the questions we get all the time about IB is, can we get college credit? What's the college credit? How does this do? How does this affect us going into college? Because, one of the things that parents point to all the time, I want my child to take an AP course because, if they get a 3, 4, or 5 on that AP course, on that test, then they can get college credit for that. And you can, right? Their AP courses, they definitely award college credits. Depending on the university, right, Ivy Leagues don't offer you any credits, even if you get 5s on APs, but other universities, right, you can receive those. And I know I'm a parent, I have children in college, I know how expensive it is, right, for your children to go to college. And that's like a big deal. And I understand that, I know that. But one of the things we love about the IB program is they do have that, okay? And there's these links on here, we're not really gonna go into that, but this presentation you'll be able to access, and you'll be able to see, especially on that bottom one, I said look for the University Policy Index when you go onto that link, and you click on that, and you'll get an Excel spreadsheet, and it will list every college university in the United States and what they offer you for IB. And I'll say this, like SUNY schools, if you get an IB diploma, they give you 30 college credits. Right? That's they give you your first year of school if you receive an IB diploma. So, I mean, that's like groundbreaking. But here's the thing, and I want to stress this. It's not just about that. It's about all the other things that we talked about the IB program that we believe drives this program and is why we want our students to be able to go through this program. It's that international mindedness. It's the theory of knowledge, teaching them how to think. It's all of those other ways that it prepares them for college. That's what we find important. But, just to throw this out there are a couple things there. This will be on our website probably at some point tomorrow. So if you wanted to go and click on those and look at universities and what they say, there's a link to Stanford, video about Stanford and how Stanford views IB, which I thought was really, really interesting and very informative. So it's not just about the IB diploma. They're even looking at students who took IB courses, and they're realizing that those students are better prepared for college.
And as I pointed out to you, 4,500 high schools in the United States have the IB program, and they're notable, usually, well-esteemed high schools. So those students have been getting credit. But let's say you go on there and you have your mind set on a school and you don't see it listed for credits. That doesn't mean that your child won't get credits for the class. I once had a student who was going to Boston University and at first didn't receive credit, and he brought his curriculum from high school and they gave him 6 credits. So sometimes you just have to go and advocate and show them the curriculum, and the college goes, okay, we're going to give you the credits for that. They also, IB has a special department where they work, where if you contact them, they will also contact the college if it's not listed and advocate to get you the credits that you're looking for. This we already talked about in the beginning, basically was the pathway we took to authorization. Again, we sent teachers out on visits, we did some summer curriculum work, and then Mr. Mello and I applied in the spring of 2017 for candidacy, which we received, and then he can talk a little bit about what we've done in the past year to prepare for authorization.
Yeah, so there's, so the candidacy phase is basically like you're filling out these forms saying like, we want to be an IB school, and these are the things that we have here that will enable us to be an IB school, and you submit that. The authorization phase, though, is now you got to start to demonstrate that you are committed to becoming an IB school. So one of the things that we had to do starting last year is send teachers out for training. Teachers had to be trained in everything that we're going to offer. And so they get these certificates of completion for that training. And then over the summer, they all had to write what we call course outlines. So they had to come up with this, there's a format that IB has you use, and you had to create a course outline for the course that you're going to offer. So over the last year, a lot of the faculty has been focused on understanding what IB is, then understanding what their particular subject is all about, understanding the other things that we mentioned, extended essay, CAS. TOK is incorporated into every course. So they had to understand all that, approaches to teaching and learning, and they learned a lot of that in their training, and then develop their course. What is their course going to look like? Because just like the students have choice, the teachers also have choice in what they're going to present. So I can speak with history. And on that sheet, you might see something that says HOTA, H-O-T-A, under history. And HOTA is History of the Americas. So that's required for a higher level. We have to, here in our area of the world, we would choose History of the Americas. You could imagine if there's a school in Africa, they would choose History of Africa. And then second part of the course is World Topics. But World Topics gives you choice in what you want to present to the kids. And that's the one thing as teachers, you were like not, constrained by New York State curriculum, although we have to match New York State curriculum, or like the AP where there was a certain curriculum that you had to get out there. You have choice in the curriculum that you want to be able to present. So if there's an area that the students are very interested in, you could then focus on that particular part and be able to, use that in your curriculum. So it was really exciting for us.
And for literature, for example, in English, the teachers have to pick what pieces of literature they're going to focus on. Now, AP, you actually saw the prescribed list because I put it up there. The IB list is much larger, and according to what I hear from teachers, there's not cliff notes on all the IB books. So there's a wide variety that they can pick from that there's not a lot of material out there from, which the teachers were quite happy about. And also, it's important to note for Putnam Valley, we are a very, very young high school. And so high schools that have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, they've usually been accredited by a middle stage program, by another type of high school program that forces you to go through some sort of review of your curriculum, of your culture. And what IB has enabled this school to do is to actually go through that kind of type of review and evaluate our curriculum, how we are teaching, what our culture is, and how we can best align, of course, even backward mapping with the middle school so that we are lined up 6 through 12. So it's really been a valuable process that we've been working on the whole year, besides just the fact that we're working towards being an IB school.
Yeah, we spent probably a month in Sandy's office, and there was this big whiteboard on the wall, and it was just like 9th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and okay, a kid coming in math in 9th grade, what math do they have, and then what do they need to have to be able to attempt the IB program, and it was a lot. It was bringing the teachers in, and it was tell us more about what they need for these courses and everything like that. So it really did involve the whole faculty, a discussion. I learned an incredible amount. The faculty learned a lot about that. And so, one of the things that I'd like to stress as somebody who's been teaching here for 18 years, it really has reinvigorated the faculty, because you can imagine you've been at a job for 18 years and, okay, kids, here's China. I know the kids love learning about China and all the Chinese dynasties. This gave us a different focus. And again, think about the different ways that you have to deliver material with the IB program. So it really got you thinking now about what you're doing in your classroom even before the IB program is here.
So now we've been talking for a long time. It's important that you ask questions because this is where we can give you more information and help us to understand where you need a clearer understanding.
Nobody has questions? No one?
One, science research, does that also integrate into that, I forget that acronym that you had, is that integrated into that class?
Okay, excellent. so the question was about science research, which has become incredibly popular here, and I think it's one of those like things that really starts to define us as a school. And we wanted to make sure that a science research student still had the ability to complete all of that and be able to take part in the diploma program. So I'll throw that over to Ms. Intruder.
So actually, we're getting Mr. Zupan trained in theory of knowledge, because a lot of his class and how he teaches kids about how to think and about process and how to write those papers is an overlap of what happens in IB. So by getting him trained in theory of knowledge, it allows those students who want to do science research to also take TOK. And
Is a separate class still though, or it's integrated into the science?
for science research kids, we would probably integrate it. That's what we're looking at. We want Mr. Zupan to go to the training and see what he can integrate and how we can best do that. But they write at least 2 big papers in science research. So one of those can be used towards their extended essay, so they're not writing science research and an extended essay. It would be just a voluminous amount of work for a child to do.
Yeah, and you could even look at the CAS requirement, and some of the things that students are doing with their science research project could easily fall within the CAS requirements as well. So, we want to make sure that they have the ability to continue doing those great things that they're doing in the Authentic Science Research Program, and not overtax them with IB. So it's great. It kind of fits in really well with TOK, CAS, and extended essay.
My second question with that too, is there a course list that's going to be coming out fairly soon that students and parents will be able to review?
Yes, so we have redone our course catalog in the past year or two. You can get that's posted online. So we're just we have to have an authorization visit. They're going to come this winter where a team actually comes to our school and they will assess whether we're ready for the IB program. But currently our teachers are writing new course descriptions for the IB program. So once that happens, we can develop a new course catalog that'll come out this winter, and that'll be posted and it's sent home electronically so you can review it and then discuss with your guidance counselor the best pathway.
And to follow up, at some point, we will have a link on the website to IB at Putnam Valley. So there'll be all kinds of information. We're working on that right now. And again, there's like, with being a candidate school or in the authorization process, there's certain things we can promote and can't promote with IB. So that's why, when that's all settled, we'll be able to get that all up there as well.
Now, my middle schooler is doing Mandarin, so it's not included, so they'll have to take a completely different language for the IB diploma.
So this has definitely been a hot topic, question for middle school parents. So the question had to do with Mandarin, right? Last year we started a Mandarin program over at the middle school. It's a distance learning program. And so those students continued on to 8th grade, and the hope is that they can continue into high school taking Mandarin, and they would be able to take Mandarin in 9th and 10th grade. The problem with IB, or the issue that comes up, one, IB does have a Mandarin course, but it's very difficult for a school district like us to bring in a teacher for one course. And then IB does have a Mandarin distance learning course, but it's only what they call ab initio, and that's for new learners. So if there's somebody that wanted to take Mandarin ab initio as an 11th grader, it's possible that they could take a distance learning course, but they wouldn't have been able to have taken other Mandarin courses before then. So what would probably have to happen with a student that had taken Mandarin in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th is that they'd have to take another language in 11th and 12th grade. But fortunately, we'll be able to offer French ab initio and Spanish ab initio. So if they've not had any other languages, they'll be able to take that. The other question is, can they continue with Mandarin in 11th and 12th grade? The one problem that we run into, if it's a student that's a science research student and they're involved in all the other aspects of the IB program, their schedule is very taxed. There's not a lot of free room in that schedule. So I don't know what would happen as far as, after school kind of learning that would be able to continue with Mandarin. So, we haven't even come across that. So what I can tell you right now is I'm pretty sure we're going to continue that Mandarin program in 9th and 10th grade. It just is then 11th grade, they're going to have to, if they want the IB diploma, they're going to have to take either Spanish or French.
Which, and just to add on to that also, really a child who's taken Spanish in the middle school and then all the way through 9th and 10th grade, a lot of times ends up switching to French anyway, which is why we've grown the French program. So not every child, once they've taken Spanish for 4 years, stays in the Spanish program either. Some end up switching when they get to the high school.
So on the wheel of IB and on what Putnam Valley teachers are excited for, it says student-centered learning and student-driven classes. Those are the same words that the Laddie people used when they came to see us last year at the middle school. Not a good experience have I had with my daughter in that. Is it similar training to the Laddie training that the IB teachers are being trained as?
So I know you were trained, but let me just address that. So as a teacher for really 20 years in the classroom, as a teacher, I was always taught no matter what class, what college course, anything pedagogically, it's always about the student being at the center of the program and the student having a voice and the student being able to express what they know and looking at different perspectives and being able to articulate that and student discussion. So how many of us, just like tonight, we've lectured to you, you probably have taken in about 10% of it, right? But if we had you up and talking and debating it and discussing, you would take in much more. And so really that's what IB or any good teaching is about students being active learners, debating, discussing, and looking at different perspectives. So student-driven that's good pedagogy.
Yeah, and just about the Laddie, I went and took that Laddie training, not this summer, the one before. And I look at that as for me here at the high school, it was another tool for my toolbox, right? That's the way that I looked at it. It is a program that they use, and there are teachers that use it at the middle school, but that is like a program in and of itself. That's not what IB is. Okay, so there is a big difference between the two, even though they're both student driven.
So we've worked with the math department, and they, Mr. Baker, Mrs. Thompson, they've been outstanding in really, and Mrs. Thompson has already been trained in IB. So they've looked at the curriculum, and that's a unique cohort going through, and so they are going to, make a combination like Algebra 2 pre-calculus, because pre-calculus is really an American type of course that doesn't exist everywhere. So they're able to adjust a little bit and make that a special curriculum that prepares them so that they can take the IB course and exam. So I would say, I've been in other IB schools, and higher level math is much, much harder than calculus, BC even, and AB. It's really very, very, very advanced, and really it takes a while for your school, for your students to be prepared for that. So even if they take a standard level in math, they can still take the calculus AB or BC exam and do fine on that.
What is the enrollment process for this?
It'll be similar to just how your child signs up now for classes. So they will meet with their counselor. You'll get the course catalog book home. You examine with the courses you want to take. You meet with your counselor one-to-one. That's the most important piece, because talking with your child about their strengths, where they want to take the higher levels, where they want to take the standard levels, that's a very important conversation to have with the guidance counselor. Then they pick the courses they want to take, and the counselor basically registers them in the master schedule, and we register them with the IB program.
So it's basically like open enrollment. Anybody can basically say, I want to challenge myself and take a higher level course or a standard level course. Those that want to try for the diploma program, I think that's what Ms. Intrieri is talking about. They'll have that conversation. Right now, I'm the IB coordinator for the school. I would have a conversation with them as well, so they understood, all the different aspects of, what you need to do to receive your IB diploma. But if they want to go for that IB diploma, more power to them. Let them go for that IB diploma. And then anybody that wants to take an IB course, standard level or higher level, again, the conversation with the guidance counselor is essential, to directing them to whether, they should attempt a higher level or a standard level.
And as we told the students, it's very exciting. Our TV studio is up and running again, which we're most excited about. But also next year, we are starting a IB film program. So that gives students in Group 6 who want to do the diploma, who might not be an artist and who might not be a musician, the opportunity to explore the arts in a different way through IB film.
Oh, wait, you know what? We got a couple from you. Yeah, we'll come back.
You mentioned a mentor being with your child. Will every child get a mentor, and will that mentor stay the full 2 years with them?
So first, your child gets a guidance counselor. That's most important. They get a mentor for the extended essay. So the extended essay usually starts in the middle of junior year. The child will pick the mentor themselves as basically a teacher who would be more of an expert in that area. And just like almost a dissertation supervisor will work with the child on, and also the extended essay coordinator will work with the child on deadlines, reviewing the paper, talking about strengths and weaknesses. And usually they hand in that extended essay probably mid-year, senior year. Because as we know, seniors, they want to be done, and so we ask for that paper early so that they can check it off their list and not be burdened with it at the end of senior year. Yes, and that is just, again, for that extended essay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as the IB coordinator, a major part of my role is to be in touch with those students that are going for the IB diploma, and constantly check up and see how everything's going, to support them with whatever they might need support with. So there's other supports that are built in, and then we mentioned the guidance counselors. They're always there, and they're always a really good support for the students. So we want to make sure that there's a couple people. The extended essay is unique because if they choose, they want to write their extended essay on, the physics of baseball, they might go to like Mr. Ludovisi, the physics teacher, and ask him to be the mentor. But if they want to write something about maybe a piano concerto, they'll go to Mr. Odell, right, and they'll talk with him, about that. So we'll marry up the student with the teacher that has knowledge in that area, and that's what we mean by a mentor with extended essay.
So we have had our visual arts teachers trained in IB as well, so we will offer IB art. And already Mrs. Furlong and Mrs. Armbruster have kind of revamped their curriculum already, and so they have adjusted their different portfolios and the types of work they're doing and the type of written reflection they are doing to reflect the IB skills that they're looking for. So if the child wants to go to FIT, they should still be taking art courses with one of our teachers. They could take the IB course. Those teachers will guide them towards those schools. Right, so if they took higher level in art, right, so they might take higher level in, let's just say, social studies and English, because they probably are more of a humanities, or they could take 2 Group 6, maybe they are a musician. And then they could take the standard levels in a science. We have environmental science. We're going to have the sports, health, and society class. We're going to have standard level biology. They might take a standard level in math, etc. Absolutely. That's the strength of the program.
Go ahead.
One last question. You mentioned the AD courses are 2-year courses. So going into, say, science, 11th grade, if the next topics, normal pathway would be physics, they're then locked into science and physics for both years, whereas now they could take, say, physics AP junior year and, a different AP senior year. This seems like it would prevent that. They're locked into physics for 2 years.
So No, you are, but we spent a lot of time brainstorming this issue, and actually Mr. Kuzma has come back with us because we've involved the faculty, and we've come up with a way so that they can actually take 2 science classes. So one, because it's over 2 years, one can be on an A day and one can be on a B day, and you can be exposed that way. Or depending on, there might be like, depending, we could offer a 1-year standard level that they could take once and then take another standard level if they want to be exposed to many different sciences. And again, it's about looking at what is the child passionate about, because if they want to go into medical or nursing, maybe it's best to do a standard level biology for 2 years as opposed to trying to take chemistry, depending.
So the wind ensemble is not an IB course, right? And IB music is. So
want me to address
the
it?
term would be like co-seating, right?
Well, I actually, because Mr. Odell has also been to training, and so has Dr. Macera. So what's great is these teachers have all been embracing it. So what it means is for music, if you want to use music as your higher level or standard level, you would take IB music theory in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade. Then you would take your ensemble class, because ensemble is part of being in that group 6. And there's also an individual piece where you have to actually write a composition. So it does all blend together, but we don't call wind ensemble IB music. You would be in the music theory that's called IB music theory. Well, that's just where we happen to put it, but you could be a 9th, 10th, or 11th grader, even a 12th grader, and take IB music theory. So you have that background so you can write the composition that they're asking. But if you want to be a higher level music student, so I can think of one student in particular now who's a senior, who's definitely a higher level music student, and he took music theory a couple of years ago. So typically, if you're really that geared towards music, you tend to take that course early anyway.
When you put this in place, are you beating out AP courses? Because you kind of insulted them a lot. So, are you trying to?
And in no way in our intention was to insult them, but as a teacher who taught AP and IB, I definitely see the strength in IB versus teaching AP. And like I said, we're keeping AP World History because it's a good precursor to the IB program. AP Composition, we believe, is going to move down to the 10th grade, so students in English have the opportunity to take that. We also want to give students the opportunity in math, because we're not offering the higher level, to do the calculus AB or BC. And currently, we have very low numbers in our calculus AB, BC class. Since I've been here, there's not been more than 10 to 12 students in that class, and our goal is to increase that and have more students stay in the math program. Any other questions? You might and also develop questions when you go home and think about it, and you can also feel free to email us. Absolutely. Their grades. So, yes, absolutely. That's through Power School. Yes.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. It validates all the work I'm doing.
Thank you.